In 1872, Italian physician Cesare Lombroso drags us out of the Dark Ages and launches the scientific era in criminology by differentiating 5 criminal classes. The born criminal, the insane criminal, criminal by passion, habitual criminal, and the occasional criminal. In other words, there are those that are born that way, and those who become that way. And in 1965, there's this other breakthrough, this criminal psychology research project at Bellevue Psychiatric Hospital in New York, couched it like this: personality and character far outweigh the presence of psychotic or defective diagnoses. In other words, by extrapolation, are criminals born? Or are they formed?
You know, I wasn't aware of that project at Bellevue.
Well, you should be.
Where I come from, criminals are always born that way.
Some people will never stop believing that. It's too easy.
Lets us off the hook.
Well, essentially, we're a Puritan nation. We blame all our problems on a minority of bad apples.
I've noticed some of the looks I've been getting.
Funny looks isn't a federal offense.
I'm an instructor in the Bureau's training and recruitment program out of Quantico, and we really need to hear from people like you.
I'm sorry, are you trying to recruit me?
Just to hear your perspectives and your insights. I'm sorry, you call yourself a professor of criminal psychology. Do you want to even talk to the educational arm of the FBI?
It's just a sign of the times, man.
Have you lost your appetite?
Do these sad fucking hippies seriously believe that they're worthy of an enormously costly, labor-intensive federal surveillance operation?
Sounds like the contempt is mutual.
Don't you think that the traditional counterculture, law enforcement enmity is a little old hat by now?
They'll never forgive you for putting a tail on John and Yoko.
Frankly, I'm just surprised to have aroused such a degree of fucking neuroses amongst supposedly intelligent people. Please, they're flattering themselves. But more than anything, he wants to talk to his wife. Think of an opening salvo, then think where it could lead. There are no right or wrong answers. Just use your imagination and see where it takes you.
It's jive talk.
We don't need to get into that. Forget vernacular. In real life, people just press their demands. Psychologically preparing you for reality. And the reality is you have to talk to them. Somebody demands the impossible, you can't just shoot him.
And why do we have so much firearms training?
Well, because that is a tactical response for when all else fails.
But if local law enforcement can't shut something down, then it has required a tactical response.
Okay, but wouldn't you like to try something different?
Holden, I enjoyed that immensely. What do you call that?
It's just role-playing. In a simulated hostage situation.
Stimulated.
Simulated.
All that profanity, is that an academic thing?
They're improvising. They're learning to create a dialogue.
How is all that cursing creating a dialogue?
It's not really about the cursing.
I'm sure it's all quite modern and fashionable in academic circles, but it seems very theatrical to me.
Well, in criminal psych, role-playing exercises are considered a valuable tool, with or without the cursing.
I think we have enough exercises here at the Academy. If you're going to start implementing new ones, we need to talk to somebody in the behavioral science unit.
You think they can help?
They can go over the soundness of the psychology for you. That's their thing.
Okay, good idea.
Why don't I set that up?
You had a beer with Peter Rothman.
Interesting guy. I was kind of disturbed by what he said.
He can be pretty old school. I call this place the country club because, you know, it can be a little starchy sometimes. A lot of guys your age don't want to go back to school because they feel it undermines their authority.
I was hoping it would give me some authority.
He's got you doing recruitment, right?
Yeah, well, I'm there, so I might as well make myself useful.
Yeah, most guys don't want to get stuck doing recruitment. They're busy working their way upwards.
I guess I'm busy working my way sideways.
You are what they call a blue flamer. You know what that is? You're so eager to do good, you have a big blue flame shooting out of your asshole. Just take it slow. You'll get there in the end. I started this thing a couple of years ago. I go out on the road and give classes in various police departments, from Buffalo, New York to San Diego, California. There's a million cops out there who want to know what we know. So I go to them, give them a distillation of what we teach here, and they tell me what they've been doing. They learn something, and I learned something firsthand by getting involved on their level. But it's a big job, you know? I'm up to my neck in local law enforcement. Today might be a baptism of fire. They're gonna be on edge. Just follow my lead.
What happened?
They caught a big case and they're spooked.
Oh, are you from the Methodist Church?
Do we look like we're from the Methodist Church?
Yes.
Make a hole. Motive means opportunity. The three pillars of criminal investigation for the last century. But it's 1977, and suddenly motive is elusive. A person is murdered, not sexually assaulted, not robbed, but the body is mutilated posthumously.
When I'm involved in a hostage negotiation, the perpetrator is standing right in front of me. But I have to gauge how much destruction he's capable of. What in his background or personal life that could have triggered today's standoff?
Something just flips, like a switch.
Good, a switch. Anybody know what flips it?
Getting fired?
Fired, yes.
Getting dumped.
Absolutely. A romantic breakup is a top trigger. When we know who the criminal is, we can understand what set him off.
In a homicide situation, we do the inverse.
Why do we behave the way we do? It's a question asked by poets and philosophers and theologians since time immemorial. The playground of Shakespeare, Dostoevsky, Freud, the stuff of Crime and Punishment and Beyond the Pleasure Principle. The greatest minds in history have been fascinated by the vagaries of behavior. So, in a case where we can't immediately divine motive, we shouldn't panic. It's a riddle, but it can be solved. It's complex, but it's human.
That was very illuminating.
Freud suggests that there's an innate desire for destruction, based on the propensity for matter to return.
What does this have to do with motive?
Well, we've always looked at motive as need or greed, right? Is it merely prurient?
He could be motivated by something he doesn't even understand.
Our new quest, like Freud, is to look beyond what we assume are obvious impulses. We used to do this experiment in social psychology.
Uh-huh. What was that?
You get onto a crowded elevator, and you face the opposite direction, the back of the elevator, and everybody freaks out. They're uncomfortable for reasons they can't even articulate. But if you turn around and face the front, everybody relaxes. Do you know that his mother was a jailbird and a prostitute? Do you know when he was 10 years old, she palmed him off onto his sadistic, Bible-thumping uncle who beat him within an inch of his life and taunted him to act like a man. Charles responded to that by becoming a pimp and an armed robber and was incarcerated for over 20 years where he continued to be brutalized. In 1967, he was paroled during the Summer of Love. Here we have a child who was unwanted, unloved, regularly beaten, and repeatedly institutionalized. Now, might this not have had some sort of an effect on him? That's a little bit Old Testament. Circumstances affect behavior. When we look at Manson's background, the real question is, how could we not have seen this coming?
He was institutionalized because we could see it coming.
Locking him up his young life helped make him what he was.
The one impacting on the other in a vicious circle.
When it comes to these kinds of things, nobody has all the answers.
Well, I'll just tell my buddies in robbery homicide who were there when the corpses were found that they may have overlooked a difficult upbringing.
You need to figure out who you're talking to before you tell a sob story about little Chucky Manson. They wrote pigs on the wall in their victim's blood.
They completely missed my point.
In the future, ask if anyone's worked a case before you bring it up. Know your fucking audience.
She was bound, stabbed repeatedly by the chest and face. Hate to bother her.
No, by all means, bother us.
When I left Los Angeles, I thought I'd gone far enough. Ada was the kind of woman who wouldn't say boo to a goose. She came from a deeply religious family in Arkansas. When they found out she was pregnant, they put her out. She lived in a rooming house in Libertyville. No drugs, no alcohol. Never had a brush with the law. She was found cuffed and lashed to the bed. Broomstick perforated her rectum. There was no sign of forcible entry. No one heard a peep.
In a rooming house?
This falls clearly into the category of lust murder. By that I mean it's sexually motivated.
That cannot be about horny.
It's more about sexual gratification through the annihilation of another. Did you find semen?
Found some on the throw cushion.
Could narrow things with your suspect.
The fact that the killer left nothing behind is interesting. It must have been premeditated to a degree.
There are more expedient ways to get rid of a witness.
Why make the boy watch?
And why sodomize him?
That's a good point. He might not be a congregant. Might be someone just passing through, but the church could be significant. I think that there's a passage in Mark. We are in the dark here. We don't know any more than you do.
In the dark, huh?
We are. I have studied everything we have to offer. I've taken this ride out here with you, listened to everything that you've been kind enough to teach me, but I still think we are talking about something that we don't understand in the slightest.
I was trying to help you. If you don't like it, go back to your bedwetting college kids and we'll forget all about it.
Ada Jeffries and her son were killed for reasons we are simply not equipped to understand. It wasn't lust murder. It wasn't some random thrill killer who was born bad, and it wasn't a panty thief who wanted to change things up. It was an aberration.
Let me tell you something about aberrant behavior, Holden. It's fucking aberrant. If we understood it, we'd be aberrant too. Fortunately, it's not incumbent upon us to write a dissertation.
Well, maybe we should.
Why?
Our job is to give him something he could not have figured out himself.
I am sticking my neck out for you.
No disrespect. At the moment, I just don't think we can say anything to a guy like McGraw with any kind of certainty. I was born in New York, but it's kind of a mixed bag.
Okay, well that's what you are right now. A mixed bag. A little college education, some experience on the streets, some insight, a lot of horse shit.